Floodland is another base building survival game set in a post-apocalyptic world, but I would like to point out to you some features and details which just might set it apart enough for you to enjoy it more than those others, and especially now after its latest updates. For its store page, use the link in the description provided by Ravenscourt and Plyon, who I thank for sponsoring this video. While it is true this game had a rocky start, the developers took all that feedback in stride and acted upon it in various updates. And now, after almost 5 months of working on the latest one, it has become the largest and hopefully the most effective one. Not only have they done their best to address most of the issues players had with gameplay in Floodland, but they also added more content and new ideas to make the world of Floodland richer in lore, events, and places to visit and build settlements. This does mean you will probably have to begin a new playthrough, but if you took a break from the game or are new to it, now is the best time to start. Especially because you now get to choose one of the new leaders and clans when setting up a fresh playthrough, each with their own ideology and ways of living, but most importantly ways of responding to new events and situations you find yourself in. As you play and your settlement becomes a home for different clans, they start to have different opinions and conflicting worldviews, which force you to think fast and act to keep the peace, whether through laws, new buildings, or cherry-picking choices presented to you in events. When you do start, you're welcomed by the first island, which now has 4 different potential layouts, adding replayability to the game's opening. The starting resource piles and nodes for rubbish, wood and food, as well as explorable abandoned ruins of buildings, will also change places and loot. I would like to mention that the population in Floodland really does behave differently during day and night, which is something very few such games ever get right. They don't work but go home to sleep during the night unless you enact the night shift through a law or as your starting bonus. The next islands you discover when scouting, looking for resources and expanding onto will likewise be changed, as the developers took care to add new random islands to the mix you might already be getting familiar with. Some you can get to by foot, but most will require new tech research for boats. And there is a lot of tech to unlock and discover, which is a bit funny as these people have been living like this for decades and they already have small boats for fishing, but I will try not to nitpick. I do like how the tech tree is divided into 4 sections, color-coded and full of offshoots, and if you want you can skip and move forward to get to the next basic material, which unlocks the next section of the tech tree. It is almost like peeling an onion, as the deeper you go the more complex each layer gets and the more resources you discover, while all of them are interconnected and production chains are slowly revealed to the player. I think I can even say it is one of the best tech trees and production chain designs I have ever seen in such a game, rivaling the one from Anno, and that franchise has been around for decades. I am a new player of this game, and to me the exploration part was very satisfying indeed, as I would get most excited when I found new people in ruined buildings to join my survivors, unlocked hidden supplies from the old world using special items, discovered surviving specialized buildings, some of which are part of the main story and require extra scientific understanding to occupy. Among those finds, there are also tidbits of information about the event, which took down the people of Earth to its knees and wrecked the whole planet. I loved reading these, learning about the lore of the game, and especially now, as the updates bring even more of them. The whole game is kind of a wake-up call about how we are trashing our own environment and how it can change to become not just hostile to us, but also destroy our way of life completely and push our civilization back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Some might say the core of our civilization is our governing laws, and indeed these survivors also base their society, even one made up of clans, on laws. For that reason, the update boosts the number of total laws available by 3 new ones, making sure that you have more options when creating a survival-based society that fits your own outlook on many facets of life, from health and happiness to crime and science. To even enact laws, you have to raise your influence by building special buildings and letting people enjoy life in your community. The developers also took extra care to make sure players get a more satisfying ending to their playthroughs with this update. But I find it odd that players have complained about the ending of a game like this. I mean, I, personally, have always been playing these games along the lines of that saying, it's not the destination, it's the journey that counts. Because there can be 1 or 2 or even 3 different endings to a story, but when you are starting from basically nothing and building a mini civilization, each such journey is already unique. I have never in my life made the same settlement in the same game twice or made the exact same choices, nor did every attempt end in success. As a matter of fact, there were probably 10 times more abandoned playthroughs and bad endings than the good ones, especially when you are an obsessive min-max optimizer like me. But anyway, let's get back to the game and its new Tide update. Here developers added a whole new UI section dedicated to crisis situations like hunger, thirst, health, death, homelessness, and so on. You get to see specific dots on the map representing each individual with these problems. They have also cleaned up other parts of the UI, made information about events and survivors more obvious and easily interpreted, enriched the endgame panel so you can marvel at your playthrough journey, flushed out the bugs from the save and pathing systems, added new ambient sounds and music tracks, as well as found and fixed glitches and visual problems reported by players. Another fun part of the game, to me, are the events, and here too the developers added new ones to make gameplay more diverse and interesting, as well as rebalance their frequency, as in how many times they happen to your settlement and survivors. You have social problems, clan tensions, epidemics started by returning explorers, and many more. These explorers I mentioned offer a very interesting and fun gameplay as you literally remove the fog one section at a time, discovering new places from rich resources, and people come back with your scouts to your settled islands. But these scouts are also capable of settling new islands for you once you unlock the prerequisite technologies. Later, you can even transfer clan population from island to island if trying to manage them to coexist with each other is too much of a headache. One thing I personally still don't like is the lack of a maximum zoom option, as in these kinds of games I enjoy to zoom into individuals, follow them around, and watch their animations as they work, eat, sleep, and solve different tasks. So that is my idea for future updates. And there is lots to see in this game. Despite starting surrounded by thick fog, you can only dispel by sending folks to explore the marshy lands and waters around them. The buildings are beautifully designed, and some are more original than others I'm used to seeing in this type of a game. A totally new building in this update is the Mushroom Picker's Hut, which increases the reach of mushroom gatherers and gives a nice boost to food production. There is a whole list of changes and additions beyond the ones I have mentioned on the game store page, and I have linked it in the description below. As you can read, the developers have been quite busy making sure to address most if not all player feedback. This is always a welcome sight for me, and every developer I see doing this gets on my list of good dev teams to follow and help share information about their game to potential or past players like you. Do tell me in the comments what you think of the game, have you played it before, and will you give it a shot now? Thank you for watching and happy gaming!